was just starting to come out, and companies were buying it, purchasing it, and then turning around and thinking, now that I purchased it, what do I do with it, right? Because there was a lot to it even back then. So this group was created to help companies on their journey from wherever they were at to Office 365 and trying to get the most out of it that they can, right? And our original intent was that companies would come, they would go through the adoption process, they would roll out Office 365, and they would move on, and we would get new companies coming in as they purchase Office 365. As most of you know who've been involved with Office 365, it seems to be evolving every day, every week. I see a lot of snickers from our panelists. And adoption never stops, right? Because there's always something new that we need to roll out or some new feature that we need to get going. So some of our members have been with us, and we continue to get new members as we go on. So our purpose is to help you with your journey. And not only for us to help you, but for you to help each other, right? Because adoption is something that's somewhat of trial and error in some cases, right? There's some basic things we try, but a lot of it's trial and error, and we share those stories amongst ourselves. I think that covers pretty much it. We do meet, generally we meet 6 times a year, every 2 months, and then an occasional special event. We have one of those coming up in January that Mike will mention. But we try to meet we alternate between the suburbs and the city. Most of the time we're meeting at one of the Microsoft centers, either the Aon building, when it's our cities, or the Downers Grove location. And as I said, we do team meetings as well. All right. Real quick, just to, the organizers of this are Larry Coons from Microsoft, Joe Daxa, also from Microsoft, who is not here tonight, from and myself, Fritz from the Hypo. Now pass it on to Mike.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So now I'd like to introduce our panel here, and I'll ask you guys to take the microphone and tell us who you are and who you are, who you work for, and what you do with user adoption.
All right. My name is Fritz. I am a Teams technical specialist at Microsoft. Focus really in a lot of areas of Office 365 and a bit in identity and security as well. Obviously, with Teams being such a hot topic nowadays, and focusing a lot on helping companies find ways that teams can be productive within their organization beyond just your standard chat meetings and collaboration, to actually kind of streamline business processes and reduce a little bit of load.
My name is Asif Rehmani. I'm from the Chicago area, and first of all, thank you very much to Larry, Joe, who's not here right now, Rich, Michael, for having this user group meeting.
I meant to say that too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, they put a lot of work into it, so we should definitely appreciate them for putting it on every month. On top of that, this event here. I run a company called Visual SB. The company was founded based upon my passion of trying to help end users or users in general trying to use the applications, right? User adoption is all about that. And as I say in my sessions, I went from being a technologist, being a developer, to the administrator, to the power user trainer, to being a psychologist when I entered the whole end user realm. Because it's not easy. There's no buttons on the end users that you can put to make things happen. It used to be so much easier back in the day when I used to do SharePoint design, intro pass stuff, or even before that Visual Studio, where you used to do something would happen. It's not as simple anymore. But I'm enjoying it, and I enjoy the people side of it. Looking forward to the discussion, because this area is definitely my passion. And hoping to learn from you guys as well. So I'm going to just suggest, if it's okay with it, if you have some stories or something to share, please feel free to do that as well. Don't just rely on these 4 people here to share it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. My name is Treb, Gatte, originally from Louisiana, which is why my name is so weird. And I run a company called Marquee Insights, where we build data cultures. So we live, breathe this pretty much every day, because we are changing companies from managing by emotion to managing by data. And it's a lot easier to upgrade software and hardware than it is to upgrade people's behaviors. So that's what we're looking to do. And as part of that journey, we run managed communities of practice and such. There's a lot of techniques that can be used, but at the end of the day, everybody's slightly different, and so there's always something new to learn. So hopefully, we'll have some good sharing of experiences and knowledge here, and we'll all walk away with desired work. Thanks.
And I'm quarantining myself. My name is Harbridge. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of a company called Tulead, and a lot of my job is essentially helping customers with IT strategy and a lot of adoption. So when we talk about adoption, there's sort of three areas that I spend most of my time. One is on the actual strategic planning, the rollout, how to run it. Another big one is on funding and figuring out how to unlock that in the right ways. The last one is something called Centers of Excellence, where essentially you need to create a capture point in the funnel, right, for all these adoption activities so that you have assets and all sorts of things. So lots of like practical experience there that we do, and I hope to share that with you guys. And then when I'm not doing that, we also do a lot of research, actually, with Microsoft and a couple other analyst firms on adoption for technology, because some of these technologies are adopted differently, going back to behaviors. So maybe there'll be some interesting insights that we can share today. That's about it.
Great. Thank you very much. So the plan here is to ask these general questions, and I will start off with a few questions, but as you have questions, please just raise your hand and we'll give you a turn to ask the panel. So let's start off with, what do you see the biggest hurdles to user adoption being? Why don't we start? And then, what's the biggest hurdle to user adoption?
So there's a lot. I would say one of the biggest, one. Okay.
Top three.
Yeah, the biggest. So I'll suggest this. I think the biggest hurdle that we see with adoption is that people don't understand in an IT context the importance of online adoption. So what we see a lot of times is people will plan for a launch or some sort of other key activity, and there'll be some effort, right, to get to that point, to prepare people, to have some champions, whatever. And then we see this drop off afterwards. And when you have something like Office 365, which is a SaaS service, there's no technology injection that drives that change. So we used to do like a SharePoint server upgrade or whatever, right? And when you did that, that would drive, okay, we need to invest more, help people with this change management, so the new intranet project, you name it. Now we have, we have Office 365, it's the same as before. How do we, fund and properly execute adoption on an ongoing basis? I think a lot of customers struggle, especially IT, supporting that motion. And so, I want to answer that how to do it, but that's what I see the problem is.
Yeah. I'll go next. As we've found, so we do a lot around Power BI, and what we have found is executives just don't understand what they're in for. And so we've had to start doing executive retreats just for that group. Because again, to your point, they don't understand it's an ongoing process. They don't understand that we're transitioning more to, we're all IT companies that happen to sell something or service something, that these are really creating capabilities that they didn't have before. In fact, there's a quote that says, the ability to learn faster than your competitor is really your last compelling, long-lasting competitive advantage. And that's the future we're working toward. And if we don't get the top engaged in adopting, we're not going to have very much success keeping the middle and the bottom getting there. So that's where we are. That's the barriers.
Really good insights, actually. I try to simplify things personally when I think about what the hurdles are, and I think the biggest hurdle that I see personally is people understand why the changes are being made. When a migration happens, when training happens, especially traditional training, people ask themselves, okay, well, I'm being pushed into this room to get trained like this, but what's in it for me? Right? The radio, WIAFM, is always playing in our heads, and we always ask ourselves that question. And I don't think it's explained properly when migrations happen or change happen. Second thing, when it does happen, it all happens at once many times. Hey guys, we've decided to do this. We have decided to do this. First of all, that's I think the wrong statement to begin with. And second, when the change happens, it's very much in a linear approach. Here's a change. We're going to start from here, we're going to go there. I'm a big believer of doing things in a step approach, where you make the change, make the spike, and then let it settle down a little bit. The adoption might decrease a little bit too, but let it settle down before you make the other spike with some other value-added scenario. And then let it settle down a bit. And I see a lot of these same mistakes of the regular, traditional ways of doing things still being repeated, unfortunately. I see that as a big blocker for user adoption. And just not having the understanding from people as to why this is happening. Why does it matter to me?
So I want to piggyback a little bit on what Treb was talking just about with leadership. I can't stress how important that is. That the statistics, all the studies that are done on change management and adoption, especially on rollouts of new products and technologies, show that if leadership is not engaged and does not understand what's going on, that's the number one factor that contributes towards failure. It's just so important. But to come up with my own answer, I'm going to say that IT can actually be the biggest problem or barrier to adoption. That IT often assumes that they know how business units operate, and then they put in place artificial barriers and policies and governance and security around the way they think their business operates, when in fact that's not how the business operates, or how a specific business unit operates, and therefore whatever technology that is that those barriers have been established in is now useless or much less useful. And we all know that a non-useful technology can be adopted. We're just not going to see adoption now.
Thank you. So the next question I have is about what's new in user adoption, or maybe another way to look at that is, what trends do you see in the industry about acceptance or importance of user adoption? Are more companies starting to understand the importance of it? How do you see our focus on user adoption having changed in the last year?
Put that line again?
Sure.
Okay. I will say that I am seeing a lot more organizations at actually a leadership level start to look at budgetary constraints and look at what are we paying for and is this actually being used. And adoption is suddenly becoming a much, much more important piece, especially if we look at Office 365 and companies are 2, 3, maybe even 6 years down the road paying for things, and what value are we getting out of this? I'm hearing that left and right. It's suddenly becoming a lot more of an important topic.
I guess I'll piggyback on what you said. We've done this time. So when the transition happened from on-prem to online, the biggest host of SharePoint and now Office 365 is Microsoft. And Microsoft themselves realized that, hey, we're putting all this stuff out, but how many people are actually using it? That data before was kind of locked up within firewalls, within environments. And many times the on-prem environments, organizations didn't even look at that data, or they didn't have analytics turned on. We're just like, yeah, we're doing our job. But now everything is out in the open. And just like you said, if it's software as a service, then I'm going to care about what I'm paying for. You know, if, no offense, I'm going to say it, but if Yammer is not being used, sorry there, then don't use Yammer, you know? If Teams is not being used, then you don't use Teams. I mean, that's going to be the mentality. But it's very much about what am I paying for, like you said. What am I paying for? And just like in general life and personal and business, same thing. If I'm not paying for, if I'm not using it, then I'm going to fire it, right? I think that's been a big wake-up call. And something that I know Richard will agree with as well, that the adoption is more of, has become a service than a project. User adoption as a service, right?
Yes.
It's got to be ongoing activities. It cannot just be where I have a begin date and an end date for this thing called adoption so I can get done with it and move on with my job. There's no such thing. You have to do this continuously. Not adding burden to your job, but adding support to your job by getting users on your side is definitely possible. It's been done. You can do it.
Well, and I think it brings up a very valid point, is that because you have this continuous change going on, there's a lot of organizations that are frightened by this, to put it mildly. And also it doesn't help, and I'm coming at this as former Microsoft, that they see the dog and pony show, they see the Millennium Falcon built in front of them, and then they get a bag of Legos to build from it, okay? And most people don't see how to go from one to the other. So one of the things that we're seeing as an impact of this change to the cloud is actually training, as we have noted, has gone by the wayside. No longer does a 2-day class cut it, but we have more active mentorship. In fact, we've had to revamp our training processes to be more of this ongoing active mentoring rather than just a point-in-time training. Because your training class is out of date a month from now. You know, and a lot of times the questions that are being asked over and over again are not, how do I do something? Because the mechanics are getting easier. But it's the why and when and where do I do this? And so that's the biggest change I'm seeing as far as the adoption's coming. It's like the whole focus has changed, if you will.
Yeah, I'm going to do a 3-part answer. You guys can cut me off that too.
We're going to cut you off at one.
Oh, yeah. So the first thing to note is, in the industry, we all know that digitization or technology enablement is a competitive differentiator, right? Organizations are shifting where they're delivering technology solutions, not just manufacturing X widget. So in that transition, technology is at the forefront of pretty much everything now, and it's arguably the most important investment in organizations. So adoption in technology, digital literacy, digital excellence, whatever you want to call it, improving digital skill set in the organization and the usage of technology is a strategic priority for any executive in any industry today. There's no question. So I think that's really powerful, right? It gives us this opportunity then to do something we never did before, which is maybe actually fund improved usage, not just usage. And not just that you use it, but improve the usage of that. I think the second trend that we're seeing is we have more data than we ever had before. So in productivity score and other things like that you have, you actually be able to see who is sending emails with attachments that are physically, the 25 megabytes, right? Or who's sending them with links. We actually have the data in 2020, we all have it, that allows you to see in your organization when it's occurring and when it's not. We never had that before. So we all want people to use SharePoint. We all want people to stop using Outlook for everything. But we haven't had the tools to be able to assess how far off we are, how well we're changing things. And when you incorporate training, or you do, an investment in a great product like Visual XP, it's pretty fun. So when you do something like that, those drive adoption. We know that, but we can't prove it, so it becomes really hard to say these dollars are well spent. I think that's becoming much easier. And when you combine it with the first trend, that's a really positive thing. The third one that I want to talk about is this really painful thing, which is we have way more change. And I don't think I'm being, facetious. I really think we have way more change now, especially in technology, than we ever had before. It really is moving much faster than it did before. And that is the counter push to all the things that we talked about. Because people are fatigued, and there's a lot of change. And the change that we're talking about for technology, there's this, sometimes people misunderstand. When you introduce technology, let's say we're working on productivity, right? Microsoft Teams doesn't matter. When you introduce something new, you see productivity dip. Because that's what happens, right? You learn it, you understand how to do it, and eventually your trend line is much better than it was before in terms of velocity, efficiency, etc. But you have this dip. And organizations who invest in training and these other things, what you're essentially doing is you're trying to manage that dip. That's managed change, right? We're reducing the dip so it's not catastrophic. People retain, they go through it. It's safe, it's okay to make mistakes and have this low productivity for a little bit, and then they come back out of it, right? The problem with constant change is there's always this feeling of dip. Right? And I'm sure everyone in this room feels that way, right? It's really hard to maintain, positive energy, whatever you call it, around these changes. So I think that's where the practicality comes in of how we communicate when we orchestrate these adoption programs needs to be much more in line with user interests instead of technology-based. So instead of, and I know it sounds simple, but instead of calling it Microsoft Teams training and making it all about Microsoft Teams, call it Making Meetings Better training and make it about meetings better and include softer stuff, not just technology changes, like how to actually organize a meeting, how to talk to people in a meeting, how to engage people in a meeting, softer skills as well. You'll get a much greater satisfaction, you'll get a much higher amount of engagement because you're not just pushing that technology lever again and again on people. So I know that's a quick answer to how to solve that problem. Those are the three trends, and that last one is really hard.
All right, so I was just going to say, is there anybody in the audience that has any follow-ups or questions? So let's jump back here.
So following up your comment about there are a lot more options and means to measure user adoption, right? This is great. I'm wondering, based on the experts up there, if you could define what are the most effective, because information is great, but unless you can actually derive value from it and insights from it, there's no value, right? So what are the most effective, both quantitative and qualitative measures of adoption that you've experienced?
Yeah. I am. We did work for a Visa Corporation quite some time back, and I learned personally a lot from it. We actually did a case study from it. Because the measure of adoption, those of you who went to Sue Hanley's keynote this morning, she mentioned a scenario where I think a company, I believe, claimed that they had 100% adoption. You guys remember that? Okay. And the way they did that was making everybody's own page, SharePoint home page, and that's not cool, for sure. But anyway, that's the wrong way of doing it. What we learned at Visa was some of the opposite thing. They were saying that our support tickets increasing. That's a good thing. Why? Because that means that people are actually banging on this thing called SharePoint a lot more. This is back in the on-prem days, though, right? What kind of support tickets are there? Is it people having trouble now sharing material, people trying to make a custom list and having some trouble making new columns? So that's a good thing. So the custom creation of objects is one thing that they looked at. The sharing of information is another thing they looked at. All these things they looked at to measure it differently, and I think the metrics to measure, the way that you measure things is got to be very specific to what your goals are. It can't just be about, well, I've heard that this is the best way to measure adoption, that's what I want to do. That does not work. And it's got to be very specific to your culture. Hopefully that helps.
Office365metrics.com is a white paper that has calculations for these things, like inefficiencies and cost transfer. So, you have a meeting, Skype, Teams, doesn't matter. You have a meeting, and some people can't make that meeting, and then the meeting's housed anyways because it's recorded, so it's okay to keep going. That's already possible. Then you have a meeting, and then afterwards, someone else goes and watches it, but they don't watch it normal, right? They watch it in stream, Microsoft Stream at 2x speed, or they skip through sections, or they do the search. So when you do those types of things, there's an actual ROI calculation, it's actually what you do to calculate how significant this has an impact in the business. And so we know, there's no question, we know if people start doing all the meetings in Teams, let's say, and everything's recorded, that the efficient use of time for especially elite hours, the way people consume meeting content, is significant ROI, real dollar numbers that you can easily calculate. And I know it just says Office365metrics.com is the URL, but it has that breakdown of how to do that. So there's tons of these ROI calculations, and I would say ROI is the way to do it. The problem is not all of us are skilled, right, to be able to calculate ROI for, you pick the scenario, SharePoint for document usage, how do I map that, right? But there are methods to do that. And the last thing I'll comment is, there's no downside to doing okay ROI, right, instead of no ROI. So even if you do like a best guess and you say, look, let's say you did a productivity metric, you're saying you think it's going to be this much cost savings. Even if you're wrong, which you probably are, if you do your math, you may miss like inefficiency, cost transfer. So like this resource is a manager and really good usage of their time. So if you give an hour back, they're going to actually use it for maybe up to 50 minutes of that hour or productive. Whereas maybe this other resource is mid-level, whatever. They're going to watch YouTube for half hour, so it's a 50% efficiency. There's lots of ways to pick apart someone's math. But the point is, even then, even if you go 80% of the ROI is probably not valid, it's almost always well worth the investment of that change or that thing. It's that substantial a difference in positives. And so, yeah, just don't feel like ROI is impossible or it's too hard. It's really not at a department level, at an org level, and we have way more data to do that now than we ever had before.
I'll answer from a really general standpoint, that don't use the first level reports that you're going to get in Office 365 that show you how many people are using each tool. Because again, it gets back to the same thing of like, okay, if Teams installed on everybody's desktop and out of launches when they log in for the day, I mean, our Teams number is going to be off. But, you know, may make Microsoft smile and make it say more monthly active users. That's, it's not real benefit to your organization. Drill in deeper in the reporting, which is giving you better, as Richard was talking about, to, for example, in Teams, how many messages are being sent per day? What's the actual activity in my Teams? How many tabs are being added to each team? How many third-party applications are being lit up? These more granular details of, you know, you do have to look at it from your own company's context, but what sort of things are happening in my applications as opposed to they're just being used?
I'm just going to add one quick thing over here to say that not just how many chats and how many tabs, but how many people are doing it. It can't just be one guy doing all this stuff. Like, oh, this is awesome.
Well, I'm going to argue this slightly differently because I'm going to say in some ways it's irrelevant how they're using the tool. And the reason I'm going to say that is I have a lean background. And one of the things that we always look at is what is the scenario that you're trying to improve? Where are you wasting time? And so we had one organization we worked with, they had 20 PMs. Every one of them was spending 6 hours a week copying and pasting data from one system to another to build a status report. Okay? 120 hours a week. It's like $600,000 for the year. One small project was able to eliminate that effort. So the ROI is vastly possible. But the thing is, if you start looking at the work itself, is Teams the better way to go? Well, definitely. But why? And it's the why that really matters to your mid-management, your upper management, because they speak dollars. They don't speak capacity or time, or anything else. They need to understand we're making things better, faster, cheaper. And so when you're looking at adoption, make sure that you're converting it to what your executives care about.
Yeah, and just to make it clear, because I hear efficiency, productivity, et cetera, being used a lot, too much to be honest. Keep in mind, there's a ton of value in just getting people to store and capture data in the first place. So IP, the value of your business, is people, products that you make, and your cash in your bank, and essentially the intellectual property of your business, which is those documents you guys all work on, et cetera.
Right.
So it can be a little bit more effort if that means that the company benefits in a very significant and strategic way for that. So, I just want to, because I know sometimes I'll get an executive who's like, well, BS, because when I use the file share, it takes me 2 seconds to do this, and doing this, and it's like, well, no, because in your scenario, no one else gets the value of that data, and then I can go on, like, you see what I mean? So,
but some of you are drowning in spreadsheets today, and I mean, I'm the data guy, so you have that. You have Cortex that's coming, which is going to probably increase the amount of data that we gather from our content dramatically. What are you going to do with that? And I'm sorry, but if you have 8 people, I have a client right now that was getting in, I think it was 8,000 invoices per month with PDFs, having to do manual reconciliation. Being able to automate that is a massive improvement in their operations. Being able to make decisions faster, be learning faster. But all of that's got to be driven, all of that will drive the adoption. The adoption doesn't drive that. I guess that's where I'm learning this.
Yeah, that's
Just, I think also we have to keep in mind, one last thing, and then we'll go to another question, is what is your definition of adoption? What is your goals, right? Are you looking to get everybody using the email? Well, that's easy. Or are you looking for people to actively engage and send links? And since I talked about, see who's sending links versus the files. So depending on what your definition of adoption is, will determine which of these ROIs or things you're looking at. Any other questions? There's got to be more questions, if not.
We solved it.
Done.
Well, that makes it a great session. I'm going to take something from a session I was at by one of these gentlemen today. If you had to pick one silver bullet, what would it be and why would that be your kind of go-to? And again, there is no such thing, but if you had to try to define one silver bullet for building adoption, driving adoption, what would it be?
Self-service.
And why?
Oh, I self-service. And it comes back to my original answer that I gave to your question of what was the biggest blocker is leadership, IT, governance, whoever it is, thinking they know better than the end users. And the end users know what they need, and they know when they need it. Who here thinks they have spare time in their workday? Exactly. So when a user knows they need a new site or Yammer group or team or I don't care what it is, they've got like 5 minutes to get this done. And if those 5 minutes are spent by opening a service desk ticket and then waiting to get a response back, they're either not going to get what they need when they need it, or they're going to find another tool to use instead. And you're not going to see the adoption you want out of your tools. By giving them the ability to do what they need, where they need it, when they need it, without intervention, that can drive a ton of adoption.
Stole my silver bullet in those.
I said,
Yeah.
So
So I mentioned in my session that there's no silver bullet, right? And then I talked about the 5 copper bullets. Then I also made the offer, which still exists. You heard me make the offer that if you do find a silver bullet, I have $1 million waiting for you in cash.
This was pretty good.
This was not it. This was not it. It's not.
The best bullet.
what are you trying to accomplish? Calling an empire meeting?
I have a really quick story for that, if you don't mind.
So back in the day, when Yammer was new to Microsoft, they tried to get, in our company, to use Yammer. I think you were there when it happened. And they gave a bounty. Whoever posts the most gets $25 in any particular form. So I go visit every freaking month to get that $25. And people would still beat me. I'm like, how could they beat me? I got time in my hands. I know Michael had it too, and I don't know how he didn't win either. But still, they were paying. But it turns out they were paying a lot of people. It was 25 down to $25. They were doing it for about a year, and all of a sudden they stopped doing it. And nobody noticed they stopped doing it. Nobody felt the loss because, hey, that was my income. I was making extra money that way. A lot of scratch, but nothing. But it just basically, remember I said, what's in it for me?
Incentives.
You want the silver bullet? You mentioned it so many times. You answered the question, what's in it for me? That's your silver bullet. Whatever it is, the answer to that.
Silver bullet's $1 million for me.
If it's $1 million, well, if that's what's going to take, then, well, you know, maybe I won't serve you. Simple as that. How about I give you a sandwich? Well, that's fine. I know a sandwich.
So I didn't answer the silver bullet question, but if I had to pick one, what would I pick, right? And what I would pick is very similar to what Max was saying over here, that you got to provide information to, the word that you probably used was context, in context to their environment. See, when I do things on the internet, I don't get trained on the internet, do I? I mean, if I go for the first time to chase.com, right? Or if I go for the first time to Google.com doesn't have anything. But other things which actually have content in there, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing? If I have a question, there's an answer or there's help or something available in context of my environment to answer that question. Why can't we bring that experience to our users internally, where they can get help as needed? Now, I'm very biased when I say this because our company does that actually with Visual SP, that we try to answer that question, but we're also constantly learning from how other companies are doing this for their customers. How do they make the in-product help experience easy so there is no training, quote-unquote training involved, right? How do you get help to people instead of training people? There's a difference. When my son comes to me, or when an end user comes to you, I'm sure they're saying one of the two things. One is, hey, can you do this for me, or can you help me with this? I'm pretty sure they're not saying, can you train me on this? Usually users don't say that. They use different verbiage. So give them help. Give them contextual help as needed, and even before they ask for it. Look at the analytics data, what's happening, and then provide these visual cues right there in the environment so they can get help where they need it. All contextual.
I think it was Abe Lincoln that said, if I had 4 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend the first 3 sharpening the axe. And I think, especially in the Power BI arena, one things that I see is Microsoft has made it so easy for you to jump into the pool that you didn't even look to see if you could swim yet. And so the thing is, I think my silver bullet is to simply know what you're trying to accomplish and plan accordingly before you do anything. Before you do training, before you do a dashboard a day, before you do any of that. Make sure it's for you. Make sure you're moving toward a goal and that you actually set that goal. Because so many times we're having to go back in after the fact and clean up the mess that people did in good faith. Because they got excited, they said, we're going to do some dashboards, do some reports, and all of a sudden they got bad data. There was a Twitter phenomenon this week where an artist got tired of all these t-shirt companies stealing their design. So they poisoned the chatbot stream. They put out a design that says, don't buy from the site, they sell stolen artwork. And how all their friends say, hey, I really want a t-shirt with that. And it spread like wildfire. Well, what happens when your wildfire is bad metrics and you could be costing somebody their job because they made a bad decision? Know what you're getting into. Sharpen the axe before you jump in.
Yeah, if I want to pick a silver bullet, it'll be, you can use the term adoption plan or adoption campaign. So it's executing adoption activities in a structure, and the structure has some very simple elements. If you're doing training, there's pre-work before the training with tips and tricks, did you know, awareness-based activities to drive interest in the training. There's things like communication planning to amplify the efforts and tips and tricks in the training, so that there's follow-up, so if the training is conducted, here's what we learned, here's who participated, etc. There's things like contests and activities, not to drive just like activity, but to actually drive the outcomes that you're trying to do. A campaign or a plan has a start and end date, so that's a baseline, and it has the execution, and it has the post, 3 months, whatever the time is to see the value of it. So thinking of marketing done this for years, thinking of your adoption efforts in a campaign format. If you don't like the word campaign, fine, it's adoption plan. But thinking of it as not one plan, right? Same thing, campaign, what's easier for this model. That's the right way to do adoption. And if you're doing that, even if you stuck and you're just doing some things wrong, you're still doing way more with the little bits of effort you're spending because they're connected and because you're doing awareness activities, not just optimization activities, training optimization, right, education awareness. So I think you just need to plan it, I agree. And the plan does have a structure. It's time-based, and it's hopefully not technology-based. The aim of the campaign should be making meetings better, or helping people recognize each other more, whatever it is. Not using SharePoint over 30 days or something.
Okay, one last question. I'm going to target this to Max here, which is... Yes.
By the way, forgetting we have a 6-shooter with all those silver bullets.
So you had said that your silver bullet was self-service. So I wonder how you balance that with the need for governance. So if users can, for example, create a SharePoint site for a team anytime they want, and how do you govern them so you don't end up with lots of zombie sites or teams or things like that? How do you balance that with governance?
That's a really good question. And the answer can be different for every individual organization, but I'll give some generic frameworks of advice. Number one, set up your end user training and policies ahead of time of what is acceptable in this application, what is not acceptable in this application. If you're worried about sensitive information, put in place something like DLP or something like that. But a lot of times, especially with people who are from the SharePoint world, which I am, and a lot of us are, it's SharePoint Fest here today, We're worried about having a nice, pretty list of all of our sites, who's accountable for it, what is its purpose, how much storage is there, so on and so forth. And in the cloud world, it's really just not as necessary to have that list anymore.
Disagree.
Okay.
Strongly disagree. Sorry.
If you do have a need for that list, does the information need to be captured on the front end, or can it be captured on the back end? Can it be captured after the creation of a new site, or team, or group? Can it be something where you have an automation that asks a user after they create what they need, we need you to provide this information?
Not on scale. Not on scale.
I've seen different. I have a customer, 100,000 users, who's doing it after the fact, capturing the information. There are technologies where you can capture this information on the front end, where you can enable self-service through third-party applications or your own custom forms or things like that, which is totally, if that works for you, great. But if you're going to disable self-service and make a complicated process that takes too long a time.
You're not disabling self-service. You're providing a more responsible self-service that's just as efficient and hopefully as automated and fast.
That's my key. It is not automated and fast. It
We're on
requires human intervention. That's not self-serviceable.
But the list is very important, right? The list of sites, teams, communities, whatever you want to call it, CN, all sorts of things. And then outside of Microsoft, right? Facebook, whatever you use. Though that master list is very important because it's super important because Teams navigation sucks, right? It sucks. If you've ever had over 20 teams, go and try it. It sucks. SharePoint navigation sucks out of the box, right? If you have thousands of sites and you're a member of hundreds of sites, the out-of-the-box navigation structures in SharePoint don't adapt to that. If you have scenarios where you have lots of communities and you're a gamer, you can't see all the communities. You can't discover them all. You can't analyze and understand which ones you want to join, etc. These are all experiences that it does make sense at scale. Again, we'll talk about large organizations where you need a master directory list, whatever you want to call it, which should have, yes, quotas and who owns it, who's the secondary owner, when was last updated, useful information, but it also should have things like which department is this? Does it have client data or is it client related? Which client is related to? Is it related to a product, whatever your business is? And that metadata is really important, even if it's a SharePoint list. I'll even say that because I've never seen a customer with over 200, 300,000 sites, right, as an example. And so we can have all that in a list, even if you could all visualize that. You can have filters, you can create different views and different pages. But that is really important because when it comes to governing it, the problem often is we don't know what we have. And if we don't capture it on the provisioning, everyone here who's going through migration, you're going to figure it all out, right? If you're doing migration right, you're going to figure out what all the sites are, which departments they relate to, all this other stuff. And then you're going to move it up there and you have a point-in-time snapshot of what the heck we have. And then if you don't start to capture on the provisioning, you'll never be able to maintain that because no CIO person is going to spend money trying to assess what we have until it becomes a problem. And that's fundamentally wrong.
And that's a completely fair point. I agree with that. My main point is, and to get back to the earlier question that I was answering, is you have this fantastic technology, and if you make it so that self-service is off, which I think we're agreeing means you either turn it off or you've made too complicated of a process around it, it's like you're putting it in this pretty little glass box with a key that you only have. And for somebody else to use it, they have to go find you and ask for permission to use the key, and that just doesn't work.
But you can automate everything we're describing.
Yes.
Office 365 can be super easy.
There are GitHub repositories out there, many of them, where you can implement using Power Platform and SharePoint and Azure Automation, a way that you could create your own self-governance creation process for Teams or SharePoint or whatever it is.
And if you're under 200 seats, maybe, I would say whatever, everything I just said doesn't apply, right? Yeah, use that in the box. I don't know, once you're over that, like, they need to add things.
Right? And if you try to come in and control it like that, our faculty will pursue you. You should have nothing to do with my business.
I'm not talking about control, this is important. I'm asking for, I'm not changing the process. The request is still a creation, which we're templating, right? templating is a good thing, we all agree. We want to create a space that's not out of the box, or we want to create a space that is out of the box configured for that need or scenario. So if you're doing that on the first place, right, then you want to facilitate that request. It's a request process, yes, but it can be instantaneous. And the extra ask is for simple information like, is it related to this department? And in universities, this context is important. And I'll give you a couple of quick reasons why, right? So let's say I want to give you a better experience. I'm not just asking you to give me this information. If we do this, right, this is, I can do code for any of you in this room, it's very easy. You can set default metadata on that site. So when you say that this is related to this department, you create this project site, whatever site you create, when you create that site, we can make it so that the site, for you, has every document that gets added to that site automatically as department equals X. And the reason we can do that for you is because then search now lights up in new ways and better ways for you. You can do roll-ups across 10 or 15 project sites into your sort of departmental landing. We can do things like that, which we can do later, but if we do it later, it's going to cost way more and be much harder to do.
It works so much better to do that for staff than to do that for faculty or students.
Yeah, student, I agree with that. Oh, sorry. So those that's not self-service provision, that's an auto-approve, you don't have to fill half the fields. I'm not saying every field's required, right? But to not ask, I don't agree.
So I think just to jump in here a minute, so it's only because of time, because this debate can go on for a couple hours. This is really good stuff, but just for those of you who aren't, like, this is the kind of discussions we get in our meetings all the time, right? And this is what our group and what adoption is really about, is finding the best solutions based on your needs, right? And the reason we ask the question is there is no silver bullet, right? There are different methodologies, there are different, and that's why I said it's good if you have a six-shooter, because one of those will, or the combination will finally do the job, right? And that's one of the things I learned early on. I always thought training was to be answer to everything, and through this process I learned a lot too. So anyway, let's just take, if we can give you 2 minutes to kind of sum up, what you wanted, anything you wanted about adoption, and then we'll get on to our wrap-up. So we'll start at the end.
Oh, I still feel.
All right, you need the rest of what we can do.
No, just if I could pick like some kind of takeaways, right? I think the first one is people are coming from different places in this room. Some people, you're an individual who's just trying to do the right thing. Some of you are leaders, and some of you are people who feel like adoption needs to be done better, but you may have no agency or real feeling of impact. And what I'd say is, no matter where you are in that story, there's lots that you can do. And champions who are non-managers, non-IT, are the people who drive all organizational change. Non-managers, non-IT, right? Leaders, if you will. So those people are actually really important people. So I think my thing that I see a lot of people struggle with is we hear all these ideas and stuff. If you just find some people that are non-managers, non-IT, and you're helping them at an individual basis, and you're making their life a little bit better and helping them understand it, and then you figure out how to scale that, and you position that and get support and things like that, then I think that's what's going to drive the change. I think when we get too manager-focused or we get too IT-focused, we know adoption is obviously coming from a very different perspective, and it often is really hard to kind of make your way back. So just maybe position the non-manager, non-IT people, we're probably not in this room. We need to do a better job of thinking about them and figuring out how to help them through this journey versus easier people who are essentially those two other groups.
If anybody has not scanned that QR code, is that everyone? You went up in the upper corner of that wheel until you went to our wrap report, probably yourself. Right there. Nope.
3 things. Be focused. Make sure everybody understands what success is defined as, in your adoption, that they're clear on the benefits of it. 2, be very, very, very prescriptive in how to get there. Not everybody can paint in the numbers for themselves. Make it as easy as possible. We like to do things for both visual learners and both people who are comfortable with text. But we try to make it as easy as possible. Once they do it 3 or 4 times, it gets a lot easier. The third piece is you must monitor those 2 things and give them that feedback. It's not for you to play whack-a-mole and punish people, but it's for them to connect the dots. I mean, think about it. The Fitbit got us off our butts and walking. And not only that, competing with each other to go walk. And how did they do that? They made it fun. They made it visible. And you have to do the same thing with your adoption. And again, you could give prizes, you can figure out what the levers are in your organization, but make it, make it engaging.
Yeah, I really think so. Completely agree. For my 2 minutes, I'm going to do an experiment first with you guys, all right? So, it's going to be a quick one, all right? Whoever wants to participate, you can. If you want to ignore me, that's fine too. If you can put your hands together like that. All right. Now, is your right thumb on top or left one? Left. Are you a righty? And I'm a righty. My right is on top. All right. Now I'm going to ask you to do the opposite. To put the other thumb on top. I'm going to put my left one on top. Here's the right thumb. And now I'm going to make a very simple request to you. For the rest of your life, please fold your hands this way. Okay? For me. And I would really appreciate it. Thank you in advance. Anybody going to do it?
I'll do it for you.
Oh, I appreciate it. One person, that's not bad.
I've already switched back, so.
Many users feel the exact same way when we ask them to change. Like, why? Right? And I'm repeating myself, that's what I said originally, but the why is super important. But you can't just be talking about it, you got to do it yourself also. Do some of these things which your users are currently doing and try to make that change and understand the why for you. For example, if you've never used Dropbox before, and now you're asking people to use OneDrive, but they've been using Dropbox for the last 4 or 5 years, use Dropbox. Get a subscription to Dropbox, have a company pay for it, and use it for a few months, and then try to change and see what the pros and cons are, so you can explain it better. Right? It's very, very, very important to empathize with people. It's very much of a people game, not a technology game. That's my request.
That was good. That was really good. I'm going to say 2 things. Number 1, make sure your leadership is on board for adoption processes and campaigns. And secondly, make sure that your leadership understands what we talked about at the beginning, that adoption is an ongoing, never-ending process. I had a talk with a CIO a few weeks ago who was angry that they still weren't done with their Office 365 adoption campaign. And I was like, and you're what? Of course you're not. You shouldn't be done with any of your adoption campaigns. For any technology, you should constantly be working on it. And the second one is, I'm going to make this quick because I feel like I've hammered on this topic quite a lot, but if your IT and security teams, or you're part of those teams, whatever, are making governance decisions, which they are, and the business is not a part of those conversations, and is not in the room, stop the conversation in its tracks. That is not okay. IT and security don't understand how business operates, and that's not their job to understand how business operates. That needs to be a collaborative effort, because that's how I see governance fail. And then adoption does.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank our panel.
If that's for me, thank you.
By the way, for $5 in the next room, we're going to have a restaurant. So, proceeds, we're going to go to a charity.
Again, and thanks to everyone in our panel. Perhaps another round of